Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are really going deep. We're embarking on what might be the most, well, extensive nutritional analysis we've attempted yet. We're synthesizing a huge instructional guide, really mapping out the precise nutritional landscape of 155, yes, 155 distinct fruit preserve recipes.
It's a massive undertaking. And this isn't just about, listing jams or jellies. The goal here is to create a complete blueprint, a detailed map for you, the listener, to understand how to maximize the nutritional returns you can get from different preservation techniques.
Absolutely, because I think most people, myself included sometimes, you glance at a jar, you see strawberry jam, and you kind of think you know what's inside nutritionally.
Exactly. But what our source is, this deep dive into these 155 recipes really hammers home, is that the method of preservation, the how, is often far more critical than the base fruit itself, the what.
Right. So our mission today is really to unpack that. We want to extract the underlying nutritional mechanics, get into the details of calorie ranges, fiber concentrations, specialized compounds, basically provide a true instructional map for anyone wanting to understand this better.
Precisely. We're dissecting it all.
Okay. And with such a huge number of products, 155, we absolutely need a standard unit for comparison. Otherwise, it just becomes meaningless noise. Right?
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
So unless we specifically say otherwise, and there are a couple of exceptions, we'll flag all the nutritional values we're discussing today. Calories, fiber, vitamins, minerals, everything. It's all calculated per a standard quarter cup serving.
Which is about 60 grams, give or take?
Yes, so approximately 60 grams.
Well,
Using this consistent baseline, this foundational unit, really lets us compare apples to oranges, or rather, confits to vinegars, and see the true impact of each method.
all right, let's dive in. Where do we start with this mountain of data?
Well, first, let's just acknowledge the sheer scale again. We have 155 total recipes, and they're organized into 7 distinct, uniquely themed collections. It's quite a creative approach in the source material.
7 collections. Okay.
Yes. And there's a slight variation in numbers. The first 3 collections, that's Banana Hip Hop, Blackberry Adulting, and Blackcurrant Basketball, they each have 23 recipes.
23. Why the extra one?
Because they each include what the source calls a fruit butter bonus track. So an extra recipe type adding a bit more versatility to those first 3.
Ah, okay, fruit butter. Got it.
Then the remaining 4 collections, Black Saput House Party, Blueberry Disco, Boysenberry Anime, and Breadfruit Origami, they each feature 22 recipes. So 23, 23, 23, then 22, 22, 22, 22. Adds up to 155.
Okay, structure makes sense. Let's tackle the first one then. The Banana Hip Hop collection. 23 recipes. What's the nutritional vibe here? Hip hop makes me think energy, maybe quick bursts.
You're absolutely on the right track. The theme seems reflected in, extremes of energy density and also electrolyte content. The calorie range here is, frankly, enormous for preserves. It starts way down at a pretty lean 65 calories per quarter cup,
Okay, that's light.
but it rockets all the way up to 255 calories for the same serving size. That's a huge spread.
Wow, 255. We'll definitely need to unpack what's driving that. What about fiber?
Fiber is present, definitely, but it's more of a moderate player in this collection. You're typically looking at somewhere between 1 and 4 grams per serving. Respectable, but not the main story here.
So it's not primarily about fiber. What is the nutritional focus? You mentioned electrolytes.
Exactly. The real stars, nutritionally speaking, in the Banana Hip Hop collection are potassium and vitamin C. We see really robust potassium levels across the board, ranging from 180 milligrams up to 340 milligrams per serving.
And that's significant because remind us the role of potassium.
Well, potassium is absolutely essential for muscle function, nerve signaling, and maintaining proper fluid balance. Think electrolyte balance. So high potassium makes this collection, especially the options within it, potentially ideal for pre- or post-workout fuel. Fits that hip-hop energy theme,
Right, recovery sustained performance fuel. Makes sense. And vitamin C.
Vitamin C is solid too. It sits generally in the 8 to 25 milligram range per serving. Good for immune support and antioxidant activity.
Okay, let's circle back to that calorie ceiling. 255 calories per quarter cup is, well, it's startlingly high for something based on fruit. You wouldn't expect that from just banana and sugar. What specific preparation hits that mark, and what's the mechanism?
That high point, that 255 calories, belongs to the banana confit. And this is really lesson number 1 in understanding how preparation method dictates nutrition, especially calories.
Confit. Usually I think of duck confit, something savory preserved in its own fat.
Precisely. The principle is the same, even with fruit. A confit involves slowly cooking and preserving the main ingredient. In this case, banana submerged in a medium of pure fat.
Ah, okay. So it's not just sugar, it's added fat driving the calories way up. What fat are they using here?
In this specific banana confit from the source material, the peak caloric density is achieved by using coconut oil as the preserving and cooking agent. Coconut oil is very calorie dense, mostly saturated fat, and suspending the banana pieces in it during the slow cooking process drastically increases the overall fat content of the final product.
Right. So the banana slices are essentially absorbing or being coated in a significant amount of this oil.
Exactly. It fundamentally shifts the nutritional role.
Right.
It's no longer just a light fruit topping. It becomes a very heavy, fat-rich energy source,
Right.
almost like a dessert component or an energy supplement in itself.
That's a critical distinction. So if you, the listener, see banana confit, you know you're looking at the high calorie, high fat end of the spectrum because of that added coconut oil.
Absolutely. It's a defining characteristic.
Conversely, then, if someone loves banana flavor but needs a low calorie option from this collection, what preparation should they be looking for?
For the lowest calorie option, they should look towards the fruit leather.
Okay, fruit leather, like fruit roll-ups, but hopefully more natural.
Essentially, yes. By dehydrating the banana puree into a chewy sheet, you concentrate the natural sugars and flavor, but you dramatically reduce the water content and volume. This process means the fruit leather preparation clocks in at only about 75 calories per quarter cup equivalent piece. It's concentrated flavor, minimal added bulk or fat.
Makes sense. Water removal, not fat addition. Any other notable features in the banana collection?
Yes, the source material also notes the presence of probiotics in some specialized preparations within this collection. These likely come from fermented fruit options that are included to fit that theme of vibrant, active, maybe slightly funky hip-hop ingredients. Gut health support too.
Interesting. And we need to remember that serving size exception you mentioned earlier. There was one for banana.
Ah, yes. Good reminder. The banana reduction. A reduction is an ultra-concentrated product. You get it by slowly cooking down the fruit pulp until most of the water evaporates, leaving behind a very thick, intense syrup or paste.
So super concentrated flavor and sugar.
Exactly. It's incredibly dense in flavor and calories. The source lists it at 125 calories, which sounds mid-range compared to the
Right,
confident.
Jonathan.
But that 125 calorie measurement is specifically for a 2 tablespoon serving, which is only half of our standard quarter cup unit.
Ah, critical detail. So if you actually used a full quarter cup of that reduction, you'd be looking at closer to 250 calories, right up there with the confit.
Pretty much. It
Yeah.
really underscores the potency you get from that reduction method.
Mm.
Goes a long way. Essential for the learner to note that serving size difference.
Absolutely. Okay, that's a great breakdown of banana hip hop. Let's switch gears now. The second collection. Blackberry adulting, also 23 recipes, including that fruit butter. The theme adulting suggests responsibility, sensibility.
I think that's exactly the angle. If banana hip-hop was about quick energy and electrolytes, Blackberry adulting seems to be positioned around nutritional responsibility, structure, and maybe the long game for health.
And how does the nutrition reflect that long game idea?
It hinges primarily on fiber and the feeling of satiety it provides. This is where the Blackberry collection truly shines. It is, according to the analysis, the undisputed fiber champion of all 7 collections.
The fiber champion, okay. What kind of numbers are we talking?
Consistently strong.
Mm.
The fiber content across the 23 recipes typically ranges from 2 grams up to a very impressive 6 grams per quarter cup serving.
6 grams is significant for a preserve.
It really is. Many breakfast cereals struggle to hit that. This high fiber content is crucial for digestive health, regulating blood sugar release, and promoting satiety, that feeling of fullness. All things that align really well with a theme of adulting and making sensible, consistent nutritional choices.
Makes perfect sense. Responsible eating often focuses on fiber. Beyond the bulk, what other functional compounds are contributing to this adulting profile?
Well, blackberries themselves are nutritional powerhouses, even before preservation. They are loaded with anthocyanins.
Those are the dark pigments, right? Antioxidants.
Exactly. Those deep purple and blue pigments that act as potent antioxidants, helping your body combat cellular stress and inflammation. Very important for long-term health. The collection also boasts solid levels of manganese, which is important for bone health and metabolism.
Okay. Vitamin C.
Vitamin C is strong here too, sitting generally between 15 and 23 milligrams per serving. So good antioxidant synergy with the anthocyanins.
And the calorie range for blackberry adulting. Similar spread to banana.
A little tighter on the top end, but still quite broad. The range is about 55 calories on the low end, up to 245 calories on the high end.
And let me guess. The 245 calorie preparation is.
You guessed it, the blackberry confit, Once again, the confit method, with its reliance on preserving in fat, dictates that highest calorie placement. It just reinforces that mechanism. If fat is the primary medium, calories will be high.
Consistent pattern. Any gut health support here fitting the wellness aspect of adulting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Similar to the banana collection, the source notes the inclusion of various fermented options within the blackberry theme. These contribute beneficial probiotics, supporting the gut microbiome, which is increasingly seen as foundational to holistic wellness. Another pillar of responsible adulting, you could say.
Okay, blackberry adulting. Fiber champion, packed with anthocyanins, manganese, decent vitamin C, and potential gut benefits. Got it. Let's move to number 3. Blackcurrant basketball collection. 23 recipes again. Basketball suggests high performance, quick moves, energy.
Yes, I think championship nutrition is the phrase used in the source material's description. It implies high-power, targeted nutrient delivery for peak performance. Think intense focused benefits.
So if fiber defined blackberry adulting, what defines blackcurrant basketball?
Vitamin C. Without a doubt, this collection is the standout vitamin C star across the entire data set of 155 recipes.
Really, even more than citrus, typically.
Based on this analysis, yes, particularly in these preserved forms. The vitamin C content in the blackcurrant collection ranges from a strong 25 milligrams per serving up to an exceptional 42 milligrams.
Wow, 42 milligrams per quarter cup. That's a hefty dose.
It is. And to put that 42 milligram ceiling in perspective, the source material highlights that this is the highest native vitamin C content found in any of the base fruits used across all 7 collections. Blackcurrants are just naturally packed with it.
So it truly delivers that championship-level immediate nutritional support, particularly for immunity and recovery.
Precisely. That exceptional vitamin C level also works synergistically with the naturally intense antioxidant levels found throughout the blackcurrant collection. Again, primarily driven by those dark anthocyanin pigments, similar to blackberries, but often even more concentrated in blackcurrants.
So a double whammy of vitamin C and antioxidants.
Right. The combination powerfully supports immune function, helps repair tissues, and combats exercise-induced oxidative stress, all essential for athletic performance and recovery, fitting that basketball theme.
Makes sense. What about energy and calories? Is it similar to the others?
The calorie range is very similar to the blackberry collection, actually. It runs from about 45 calories on the low end up to 235 calories on the high end.
And the 235 confit again?
Confit again. Blackcurrant confit hits that 235 calorie peak. The pattern holds. Fiber remains respectable too, generally ranging from 1 to 5 grams per serving, so still beneficial, but vitamin C and antioxidants are the headline acts here.
Blackcurrant basketball. Vitamin C superstar, high antioxidants, good for performance and recovery. Check. Now we move into the collections with 22 recipes each, and it sounds like the focus shifts a bit.
Yes, the next few collections, starting with Black Sapote House Party, seem to be defined less by the inherent superstar qualities of the base fruit itself and more by the creative additions and combinations used in the recipes.
Okay, Black Sapote House Party. 22 recipes. I know black sapote is sometimes called a chocolate pudding fruit. Sounds intriguing. House Party implies mixing, variety, maybe unexpected combinations.
Exactly. The theme focuses on mixology, tropical creativity, and unexpected pairings. And the nutritional strength here, according to the source, comes significantly from these creative vegetable combinations that are intentionally integrated to boost the overall nutritional profile.
Ah, so they're actively adding veggies to the fruit preserves.
Yes, in several recipes within this collection. The base calorie range is 50 to 220 calories per serving, so slightly lower ceiling than the berry ones. Fiber is pretty standard, around 1 to 4 grams.
So what's the star example of this intentional nutritional boosting using vegetables?
The source material really spotlights the sweet potato confit in this collection.
Sweet potato confit with black sapote. That is a house party combination.
It certainly is. It reaches that 220 calorie ceiling for the collection, again, because it's a confit involving fat. But the crucial mechanism to understand here isn't just the calories. It's that the addition of sweet potato actively introduces significant levels of beta-carotene into the nutritional profile of the preserve.
Right, beta-carotene, the precursor to vitamin A. Important for vision, immune function.
Exactly. Black sapote itself isn't particularly high in vitamin A precursors. So this is a perfect example of using a preservation method in this case, combining fruit with a nutrient-dense vegetable like sweet potato to strategically layer in new health benefits that weren't present in the base fruit.
That's clever, using the preserve as a vehicle for other nutrients.
Precisely. It really broadens the potential.
And the house party theme, implying variety and experimentation, does that show up elsewhere?
It does. The analysis notes several diverse probiotic fermentation options included in this collection.
Oh.
Again, playing into that theme of unique flavor combinations, maybe some tangy or savory notes alongside the sweet, and experimental health benefits from different microbial cultures.
So even though black sapote itself might be naturally lower in certain vitamins, like vitamin C,
Yes, the range for vitamin C here is about 8 to 22 milligrams lower than the berries.
these creative additions, the vegetables and the fermentation techniques, help compensate and create a more rounded, interesting nutritional profile.
That seems to be the core concept of the Black Sapodius House Party collection. Mix it up, add unexpected healthy elements.
Cool. Okay, next up, Collection 5, Blueberry Disco Collection. 22 recipes. Disco makes me think. Smooth, maybe a bit retro, groovy.
Groovy nutritional balance seems to be the idea here. And the first thing you notice in the data is a significant drop in the high end of the calorie range compared to the previous collections.
Oh, lower calorie ceiling. What's the range?
It runs from 40 calories up to only 195 calories per serving. Still a range, but topping out below 200 is notable after seeing peaks around 235, 255.
Interesting. So a focus on moderation, perhaps. A groovy, less intense profile.
That appears to be the case. The base fruit, blueberry, delivers what you'd expect. Strong, consistent berry performance. Good levels of vitamin C, generally 15 to 31 milligrams, high in those anthocyanin and antioxidants, of course.
Blueberries are famous for those.
Absolutely. And this collection also highlights a notable presence of vitamin K.
Ah, vitamin K. Important for...
Blood clotting, primarily, but also increasingly recognized for its role in bone health. So another solid nutritional contribution from the blueberries. Fiber is also good, typical berry range of 1 to 5 grams.
Okay, so solid base nutrition from the blueberry. But something must be hitting that 195 calorie cap, even if it's lower than others. What pushes the calories up in this moderate collection?
It's the duck fat confit.
Duck fat. Okay, that explains it. Confit strikes again, even in disco land.
Exactly. The method dictates the outcome. Using rendered duck fat, a rich, flavorful animal fat, as the preserving medium pushes the caloric density up, naturally. Though it's interesting, it only reaches 195 calories, not the 230s or 250s we saw with coconut or other fats in previous collections. Perhaps smaller amounts are used, or the blueberry structure absorbs less. The source doesn't specify why it's lower, just that it is.
Still, clearly a high-fat, high-calorie option within the collection, likely intended for more specialized culinary uses, not everyday spreading.
Almost certainly. It's a flavor and texture choice. The source also mentions unique vegetable pairings being used in the Blueberry Disco collection, contributing to that groovy balance of flavors and maybe adding some subtle nutritional complexity, though not as prominently featured as in the Black Sapudi collection.
Blueberry Disco. Moderate calories overall, classic blueberry benefits, anthocyanins, Vit C, Vit K, but watch out for the duck fat confit if you need low calorie, low fat. Makes sense. On to collection 6, Boysenberry Anime Collection. 22 recipes. Anime suggests maybe Japanese influence, creative, perhaps complex.
That's precisely the theme highlighted in the source material. This collection deliberately embraces global, specifically Asian-inspired ingredients and techniques to enhance both umami flavor profiles and deliver specific functional compounds often found in Asian cuisine.
Interesting. So, going beyond standard fruit preservation, what kind of ingredients are we talking about?
We see things designed to elevate umami, that savory fifth taste, and also ingredients known for targeted probiotic or antioxidant effects. Think miso, matcha, certain mushrooms, maybe some pickling techniques inspired by Tsukemono.
Wow, okay, so quite experimental. What does this do to the basic nutrition profile, like calories and fiber?
The calorie range is interesting here. It actually features the lowest starting calorie point we've seen so far, just 35 calories per serving on the very low end.
35. That's practically nothing. What preparation would that be? Likely a vinegar or something very light?
Probably a lightly sweetened vinegar or a gel, yes. The range goes up to 205 calories on the high end, so still a significant spread. Fiber is standard for berries, 1 to 5 grams.
Okay, and what defines that 205 calorie peak when we're integrating these unique Asian-inspired flavors? Is it still a confit?
Yes, but an interesting one. The highest calorie item here is the shiitake confit at 205 calories.
Shiitake mushroom confit with boysenberries. That's bold.
It definitely fits the anime theme of unexpected combinations, and it demonstrates an important nuance about confits. It's not just the fat medium driving calories. The structural density of the secondary ingredient matters too. Shiitake mushrooms are quite dense and meaty.
Right, so they might absorb more fat or just contribute more inherent calories compared to a lighter fruit piece.
Exactly. It shows how the specific pairing within the confit method influences the final number. This collection, Boysenberry Anime, is highlighted as being particularly rich in culinary sophistication. The source mentions the use of multiple fermentation techniques beyond simple lactic acid ferments, and specifically calls out unique combinations involving matcha and miso.
Okay, so matcha would bring.
Matcha brings catechins, specifically EGCG, which are powerful antioxidants associated with green tea, plus that unique, slightly grassy flavor.
And miso.
Miso brings deep, savory umami flavor, but also, importantly, it's a fermented product itself, so it contributes probiotics and beneficial enzymes. Using miso paste in a preserve is a fascinating way to add complexity and potential gut health benefits.
Boysenberry Anime. Lowest starting calorie, Asian-inspired ingredients like shiitake, matcha, miso adding umami, antioxidants, and probiotics. Very cool. All right, last one. Collection 7. Breadfruit Origami Collection. 22 recipes. Origami suggests. Folding. Complexity. Precision. And breadfruit is quite different from berries.
Yes, breadfruit provides a very different base. It's starchy, more like a potato or plantain in texture and function than a soft fruit. The source material highlights this starchy base as providing sustained low glycemic energy. The origami theme seems to relate to how other ingredients are precisely folded into this neutral, starchy base to create complex and sometimes extreme flavor and nutritional profiles.
Okay, starchy base for sustained energy. What are the core numbers? Calories, fiber.
The core calorie range is 45 to 235 calories per serving. So back up to that higher ceiling, fiber is a bit lower than the berries, reflecting the starchy nature, generally 1 to 4 grams.
You said extreme profiles. This collection contains some real outliers, doesn't it? The source material flagged a couple of major ones here.
It absolutely does. This collection holds some of the most dramatic nutritional numbers, both positive and negative, across the entire 155 recipes. These are pivotal instructional points for the listener.
Okay, let's start with the positive extreme. There was a massive vitamin C outlier mentioned here.
Yes, this is a truly stunning example of compound nutrition, where the added ingredient completely overshadows the base. We're talking about the roasted red pepper HR preparation within the breadfruit collection.
Yeah, car, that's like a spicy pickled relish, right? Made with roasted red peppers and breadfruit.
Exactly. And due to the very high content of the added roasted red peppers, which are naturally packed with vitamin C, this specific recipe delivers an astounding 94% of the daily recommended value of vitamin C in a single quarter-cup serving.
94% from a preserve. How many milligrams is that?
That translates to about 85 milligrams of vitamin C. It absolutely dwarfs the vitamin C content from most other sources in this entire analysis. The starchy breadfruit is essentially just the carrier here. The roasted red pepper is the nutritional engine driving that incredible vitamin C number.
That's incredible. It really proves the point about added ingredients defining the profile. Any other major positives?
That same roasted red pepper HR preparation also exhibits a massive potassium spike. The analysis notes it can reach up to 485 milligrams of potassium per serving when prepared with those peppers. Again, the vegetable additive is key.
Huge potassium, huge vitamin C from adding peppers to breadfruit. The lesson is crystal clear. The additive can completely redefine the nutritional status. Okay, now let's brace ourselves and confront the other extreme mentioned for this collection, the warning sign.
Right. Well, first, just to maintain consistency, the confit pattern holds true here as well. There's a duck fat confit using breadfruit, and it matches the collection's calorie ceiling at 235 calories. High fat, high calorie, as expected.
Okay, standard confit warning, but there was something else much more alarming related to sodium.
Yes, the critical flashing red warning sign in the breadfruit origami collection, and indeed across all 155 recipes, centers on the fish sauce reduction.
Fish sauce reduced, so concentrated even further.
Exactly. Fish sauce is already very high in sodium. Reducing it concentrates everything, especially the salt. This ultra-concentrated savory preparation clocks in at a truly shocking 1,285 milligrams of sodium per the specified 2-tablespoon serving size.
1,285 milligrams in 2 tablespoons. That's more than half the recommended daily sodium intake for many people, isn't it?
It is. It's an enormous amount. This isn't just a high-sodium product. It is a nutritional outlier that demands the learner exercise extreme caution and understand its intended use.
Right. This cannot be treated like a jam or even a typical chutney. This has to be used differently.
Absolutely. It functions as a highly concentrated, umami-rich condiment or seasoning.
Uh,
You'd use maybe a tiny drizzle, a quarter teaspoon perhaps, to season an entire dish, not spread it on toast. Its presence in the collection really forces us to stretch our definition of what a preserve can be.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally about concentrating ingredients, whether that's sugar, fat, vitamins from peppers, or in this case, an extreme amount of salt from fish sauce.
Wow. Okay, that detailed tour through the 7 collections absolutely hammers home the central theme. The preparation method is paramount. It dictates calories, fiber, vitamins, sodium, everything.
It really does. The base fruit provides the potential, but the method unlocks or defines the final nutritional reality.
So let's formalize that now. Let's build that instructional map we talked about, but this time organizing it purely by the type of preserve, regardless of the fruit. Starting with the most common concern, the calorie hierarchy. Where do different types of preserves typically fall on the calorie ladder?
This is a really crucial instructional walkthrough for anyone trying to navigate these options based on energy needs. The calorie count is almost always a direct function of two main things: the ingredients added, especially sugar and fat, and the amount of water removed, concentration.
Okay, let's start at the bottom then. Which types consistently fall into the low-calorie bracket? Let's define that as, say, under 100 calories per standard quarter cup serving.
Right. This low-calorie bracket is really characterized by either high water content or significant water removal without adding much sugar or fat. The absolute lowest calorie options are typically the vinegars.
Fruit vinegars like apple cider or raspberry vinegar.
Exactly. Things like shrubs or drinking vinegars too. They're mostly water and acid, maybe a tiny bit of residual sugar. You're often looking at just 5 to 25 calories per tablespoon, so very low even scaled up. Next up are gels.
Gels, like using agar or pectin with minimal sugar.
Precisely. Often stabilized with agar, konjac, or similar low-calorie gelling agents, using fruit juice or puree, but very little added sugar. These typically fall in the 35 to 55 calorie range per quarter cup.
Okay, still very light. What else is down here?
Fermented fruits. These usually sit somewhere between 45 and 85 calories. The fermentation process itself actually consumes some of the natural fruit sugars, and they often contain less added sugar compared to traditional jams. Plus, you get the probiotic benefit.
Right, and we saw fruit leathers earlier.
Yes, fruit leathers rely on dehydration, concentrating flavor, but not adding much else. They generally land between 50 and 75 calories per quarter cup equivalent serving. And finally, very lightly prepared sauces, maybe just pureed fruit with a touch of lemon, could be in the 75 to maybe up to 115 calorie range, just sneaking over that 100 mark sometimes, but often below it.
Okay, so vinegars, gels, fermented fruits, leathers, and light sauces are generally your sub-100 calorie choices. Good to know. Now, moving up into the medium calorie range, let's say 100 to 175 calories per quarter cup. This feels like the territory of more traditional sweet preserves, right?
Exactly. This bracket is really dominated by sugar concentration in cooking. We mentioned reductions earlier. They are very dense due to water removal. They typically hit 90 to 125 calories, but remember, that's often per the smaller 2 tablespoon serving. Scaled up, they'd be higher, pushing into the upper end of this medium range or even beyond.
Right, the concentration factor. What else?
Compotes. These are preserves where the fruit is cooked lightly, often left chunky, with moderate sugar. They usually fall between 115 and 145 calories. And then, the real heartland of this category: traditional jams, jellies, and standard preserves.
The stuff most people picture when they hear jam.
Pretty much. These are typically clustered quite tightly between 135 and 175 calories per quarter cup. The calories here are predominantly driven by the significant amount of added sugar, which is essential not just for sweetness, but also acts as the primary preservative by binding water.
Okay, so reductions, compotes, jams, jellies, preserves, that 175 calorie range is mostly about sugar concentration. Now, let's analyze that crucial jump. What happens when we cross that 175 calorie threshold into high calorie preparations? The source material suggests this leap isn't just about adding more sugar, something else changes fundamentally.
That's absolutely correct. The transition into the high-calorie zone, over 175 calories, is primarily driven by the introduction of significant amounts of fat and sometimes protein. This is a pivotal concept for the learner.
Okay, so what's the first step up on this high calorie ladder? What takes us past the jams and jellies?
That would be the curds. Think lemon curd, lime curds. These typically range from 175 to 210 calories per quarter cup.
And why are they higher? What's the mechanism?
Curds, by definition, require rich, binding ingredients to achieve that smooth, creamy, opaque texture. They almost always incorporate egg yolks, and very often butter or sometimes heavy cream.
Ah, the eggs and butter. Okay. So it's the concentrated dairy fat from the buttercream and the fat and protein from the egg yolks that significantly boosts the caloric density compared to a simple fruit and sugar jam.
Exactly. It changes the whole texture and mouthfeel, moving from a translucent gel to a rich, smooth cream, and the calories climb accordingly.
Makes perfect sense. What sits above curds in the calorie hierarchy?
Next up are generally conserves. These usually clock in around 175 to 215 calories, overlapping slightly with curds but often pushing a bit higher.
Why are conserves higher? What defines them?
Conserves are traditionally defined by the mandatory addition of structural elements, typically nuts like walnuts or almonds, and or dried fruits like raisins or figs. These additions, while adding texture and flavor complexity, also naturally carry higher caloric density, primarily from the fats in the nuts and the concentrated sugars of the dried fruits.
Got it. So nuts and dried fruit bumping up the calories. What else is in this high tier?
Then you have preparations sometimes referred to as dulces, particularly in Latin American traditions, like a dulce de leche variation made with fruit, perhaps. These often involve very long cooking times, sometimes with milk or heavy cream that caramelizes and concentrates, pushing them into the 195 to 235 calorie range.
Heavily cooked, often with dairy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that brings us once again to the undisputed heavyweight champions of the calorie world.
The confits, yes. Ranging generally from 195 calories all the way up to that peak of 255 calories we saw with the banana coconut oil confit, they consistently top the calorie chart.
And the reason, just to reiterate for the listener, is
Because the fundamental preservation method involves slowly cooking and storing the primary ingredient in a medium of pure rendered fat. Whether it's duck fat, high-quality olive oil, or coconut oil, that fat becomes an integral part of the final product, contributing the vast majority of the calories. So the key instructional takeaway for the learner regarding calories is this. Trace the ingredients. Low calories often mean high water or dehydration. Medium calories usually mean significant added sugar. High calories almost always mean significant added fat from dairy, eggs, nuts, or the confit process itself.
that's a perfect summary. Understanding those ingredient drivers is key to navigating the calorie ladder.
Excellent. Okay, let's shift focus from calories to another important nutrient, fiber. We crowned blackberry adulting the champion collection, but which types of preparations should a learner look for if their primary goal is maximizing fiber intake for satiety or gut health? Let's identify the fiber champions by preparation type.
Right, so if high fiber is the goal, you need preservation methods that firstly minimize straining or sieving, you want to keep the solids, and secondly, intentionally incorporate high fiber ingredients or components.
Makes sense. Keep the skin, seeds, pulp, and maybe add more fibrous stuff. So which types fit that bill?
The analysis in the source material points to the ACAR preparations as the clearest winners across the board.
The pickled relishes, like that breadfruit red pepper one?
Exactly. Acres consistently delivered the highest fiber range in the analysis, typically 5 to 6 grams per quarter cup serving.
5 to 6 grams is really high for a condiment or preserve. Why do acres perform so well on fiber compared to, say, a traditional jam?
Several reasons. First, they often use vegetables alongside fruit, and vegetables tend to be higher in fiber. Second, the preparation often involves less fine chopping or straining, retaining more of the natural structure, including skins and seeds where appropriate. Third, the spices used in acres can also contribute small amounts of fiber.
Okay, so acres are number one for fiber. What else stood out?
Well, as we noted, any preparation using blackberries as the base fruit tends to be higher in fiber simply due to the nature of the berry itself, packed with seeds. So a blackberry jam will likely have more fiber than, say, a peach jam, even if the method is similar.
Good point. The base fruit still matters for fiber. Any other preparation types?
Yes, definitely look towards conserves. Remember, conserves require the addition of nuts and/or dried fruits. Both nuts and dried fruits are excellent sources of dietary fiber. So the very definition of a conserve means it's likely to be higher in fiber than a standard jam or jelly.
Yeah.
And, more generally, any preserve that explicitly combines fruit with vegetables like that sweet potato confit, though confits aren't typically sought out for fiber, or uses whole citrus fruit, including the peel, like marmalades, will tend to have a higher fiber count due to those added structural plant components.
Okay, so for fiber, look for acars first, then conserves, anything with blackberries, preparations using whole citrus peel, or those explicitly mixing fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Got it. Let's do one more in this section, vitamin C all-stars. Where can the learner find the most potent sources of vitamin C, focusing on preparations that deliver, say, 20% or more of the daily value per serving?
This is a great one because vitamin C is heat sensitive, so preservation methods can impact it. But some sources really stand out. We absolutely have to put the spotlight back on that remarkable outlier, the breadfruit roasted red pepper acar.
The 94% DV one.
Exactly. Delivering that 85 milligrams of vitamin C, nearly a full day's worth in one serving, is just astonishing. It serves as the ultimate instructional anecdote. The nutritional powerhouse of reserve can be almost entirely dictated by a high-performing additive, in this case the red peppers, rather than the base ingredient.
Truly remarkable. Okay, setting aside that amazing anomaly, where else can the learner consistently find potent vitamin C?
The most consistently potent fruit base identified in the analysis is blackcurrant. Preparations using blackcurrants reliably provided 31% to 47% of the daily value for vitamin C per serving.
So roughly 28 to 42 milligrams. That's excellent.
It really is. Any jam, jelly, sauce, or even vinegar made primarily with blackcurrants is likely to be a vitamin C powerhouse, assuming the processing isn't overly harsh.
Okay, blackcurrant is king for native vitamin C. What else clears that 20% DV hurdle?
The next major category is citrus marmalades. Think orange, grapefruit, lemon marmalades. These performed very strongly, typically landing in the 24% to 39% DV range.
Why are marmalades so good for vitamin C? Is it just the citrus fruit?
It's partly the high native vitamin C in citrus, but also crucially, traditional marmalade making uses the citrus peel, the zest, and sometimes the pith. The peel is actually very rich in vitamin C and other bioactive compounds, so using the whole fruit, peel included, boosts the final vitamin C content significantly compared to just using the juice.
Ah, the peel is key. Good tip. Anywhere else for a reliable vitamin C hit?
Lastly, most general berry preserves, think strawberry, raspberry, boysenberry, as we saw. Even blueberry, to some extent, deliver a pretty reliable dose. They typically range from about 17% up to 31% DV in the analysis. So while not usually hitting the heights of blackcurrant or red pepper otar, choosing almost any berry preserve is likely to give you a decent contribution towards your daily vitamin C needs.
Okay, vitamin C all-stars. The freakish breadfruit red pepper otar is number one, followed by anything blackcurrant, then citrus marmalades, thanks to the peel. And finally, most other berry preserves offer a solid contribution. That's a very useful map. Hashtag tag 3. Specialized compounds and functional benefits, the hidden health markers.
All right, now we can move beyond the standard macronutrients and vitamins that appear on nutrition labels and explore some of the more specialized compounds and functional benefits highlighted in the source material. These are often the hidden health markers that are tied more closely to specific ingredients or, again, the processing method. Let's start with something increasingly popular, probiotics and gut health sources.
Yes, gut health is huge now. The sources confirm that fermentation is the key pathway here, but it sounds like there were several distinct types of fermentation being used across these 155 recipes. It wasn't all just one method.
That's right. There's a spectrum of fermentation techniques employed. The most basic and foundational source of probiotics mentioned is simply listed as fermented fruit preparations. These appear in some form across all 7 of the themed collections. This likely refers to simpler, perhaps wild fermented or lightly cultured fruit preparations, focusing just on the fruit itself.
Okay, so some baseline level of fermented fruit is widely available across the themes. But where does the real probiotic strength lie? Which methods deliver a more potent dose or different types of cultures?
The analysis suggests the true probiotic powerhouses are the more specialized, often savory fermentation techniques that borrow from other culinary traditions. Specifically, the source highlights preserves that utilize kimchi or sauerkraut bases.
Whoa, kimchi or sauerkraut in a preserve. Which collections featured those?
These were found specifically within the blueberry disco, breadfruit origami, and boysenberry anime collections. So using established vegetable fermentation processes, known for robust lactic acid bacteria cultures, and integrating them with fruit, that potentially delivers a much more potent and diverse range of live cultures.
That's fascinating. Fruit, kimchi, I'm trying to picture the flavor. What else?
Furthermore, the incorporation of miso preparations is another key source of gut-friendly compounds. We saw miso mentioned in the black poke, blueberry, boysenberry, and breadfruit collections.
Right, miso adds umami, but it's also fermented soybean paste.
Exactly. So using miso introduces not only complex, savory flavor, but also significant levels of beneficial enzymes from the koji fermentation process and potentially some residual probiotics, depending on whether the final product is heat-treated. It adds a definite functional dimension.
Okay, so fermented fruits broadly, kimchi, sauerkraut, bases for potency, miso for enzymes and umami. Any other contributors to gut health noted?
Yes, one more category. Aged vinegars. While vinegars don't typically provide live probiotic cultures, the acetic acid produced during their fermentation, along with other organic acids developed during aging, are known to support a healthy gut environment. They can help regulate gut pH and have prebiotic effects, and fruit vinegars were found across all the collections.
Right, so vinegars contribute beneficial acids, even if not live bacteria. Good point. Okay, let's pivot back to calories for a moment, but with a specific focus. We need a crucial instructional piece here, the fat content analysis. We know confits are high fat, but let's do a quick tutorial on exactly where fat shows up in preserves, because it's not usually the first thing people associate with them.
That's a really important clarification because the vast majority of preserves are actually very low in fat. It helps to alleviate any general fear. The source analysis states that a full 85% of all 155 preparations are classified as minimal fat.
85%. Okay, so the default state for a preserve is low fat. What does minimal fat mean in numbers?
It means they contain less than 2 grams of fat per quarter cup serving. So for the overwhelming majority of jams, jellies, vinegars, sauces, fermented fruits, etc., fat content is negligible.
That's reassuring. So if a learner does encounter significant fat in a preserve, it's almost certainly an intentional addition, not some hidden default. Where do we find those specific moderate fat pockets? Let's define moderate as, say, 2 to 10 grams per serving.
These moderate fat levels are almost always linked directly to specific high-fat ingredients being added for texture or flavor. The main culprits identified are nut conserves. As we discussed, conserves often contain nuts like walnuts or pecans.
Which are naturally high in healthy fats.
Exactly. So the fat comes directly from the nuts. Secondly, some oil-based acars. While acars are primarily about spice and pickling, some recipes use a small amount of neutral oil, maybe for tempering spices or adding richness, pushing them into this moderate fat category.
Okay. And the third one?
Curds. Remember lemon curds? They contain butter or cream and egg yolks.
Right, the dairy fat and egg yolk fat.
Those contribute enough fat to place curds firmly in this moderate fat range, typically 5–10 grams.
Okay, so nuts and conserves, some oil in acars, and dairy egg fat in curds account for that moderate to 10-gram range. Now for the big one, the high fat category. This needs a clear warning label. What's the range here and what defines it?
The high-fat category is defined in the analysis as containing 15 to 25 grams of fat per quarter cup serving, and the instructional signpost couldn't be clearer. This category is 100% defined by the confit method.
15 to 25 grams. That's a lot of fat for a quarter cup, like more fat than in many servings of fries or chips.
It is a significant amount, and again, it's because the fat isn't just an additive. It is the core preserving environment for confits. The fruit, or vegetable, or mushroom, is slowly cooked and stored submerged in it.
And the specific high-fat mediums used in these recipes were?
The source material explicitly identified 3 main ones across the various confit recipes: duck fat, coconut oil, and high-quality olive oil. Each brings its own flavor profile and fatty acid composition, but all are obviously very high in fat.
So the absolute key takeaway for the listener: if the label says confit, you must recognize you are choosing a product where fat is a primary ingredient, contributing substantial calories and defining its nutritional profile and culinary use. It's an energy-dense food, not a light fruit spread.
Couldn't say it better myself. That distinction is critical.
Okay, this detailed mapping is incredibly helpful for linking nutrition back to method. Let's shift again now and map flavor to function by exploring the unique bioactive compounds present in some of these preparations. These are the compounds beyond basic vitamins and minerals that might offer specific health effects.
Yes, these are the exciting, often niche compounds that add another layer of functional benefit. For instance, for those who enjoy a bit of heat and its potential metabolic effects, capsaicin is a key one.
From chili peppers.
Exactly. Capsaicin, the compound that provides the spicy heat, is present in all the preparations across the collections that explicitly contain child peppers. The analysis specifically called these out in the black sapote, breadfruit, and boysenberry collections. So if you like spicy preserves, you're also getting a dose of capsaicin.
Okay. What about other pigments or compounds related to color? We talked about anthocyanins and berries. Anything else?
Yes, carotenes, specifically beta-carotene, which the body converts to vitamin A. We saw this highlighted with the sweet potato confit in the black sapote collection. This demonstrates how deliberately combining fruit with colorful vegetables like sweet potato or carrot can introduce these important carotenoid compounds.
So looking for those orange-yellow vegetable additions is key for carotenes. and antioxidants beyond the berry anthocyanins.
Well, the anthocyanins are definitely the most widespread, powerful antioxidants, especially abundant in all the dark berry collections, blackberry, blackcurrant, blueberry, boysenberry. But the analysis also pointed out a more specialized group, catechins.
Catechins, like in green tea.
Precisely. Powerful polyphenols with strong antioxidant activity. These were sourced specifically from the matcha preparations found in the boysenberry anime and breadfruit origami collections. So adding matcha powder is essentially integrating the antioxidant benefits of green tea directly into the preserve.
That's a clever functional boost. Anything else? Any mild stimulants?
Interestingly, yes. For learners looking for a very slight functional lift, the source material identified coffee reductions within some collections.
Coffee, reduced down into a preserve.
Seems so. Likely a very intense coffee-flavored syrup or paste. These were found to provide a measurable dose of caffeine, ranging from about 8 to 18 milligrams per serving.
Okay, 8 to 18 milligrams isn't a huge jolt, like a cup of coffee might have 100 milligrams.
No, it's mild. More like a cup of green tea, maybe less. But it's still a functional stimulant effect you absolutely wouldn't find in a standard fruit jam. It adds another layer of functional potential depending on the recipe.
Fascinating. Capsaicin from chiles, carotenes from veggies, anthocyanins from berries, catechins from matcha, and even caffeine from coffee reductions. It really shows the diverse functional ingredients being used.
Okay, now we absolutely need to dedicate a focused instructional segment to sodium. This is critical because the range identified in these 155 recipes is just massive. It goes from practically zero in many sweet jams all the way up to potentially dangerous levels in some of the specialized savory condiments. Understanding the sodium spectrum is vital for safe and appropriate use.
Right, sodium is always a big health concern, and it sounds like in the world of preserves, the level is entirely dependent on the type of preparation. It's not random.
Exactly. The salt level is almost always a direct reflection of the intended preservation method and the flavor profile being targeted. It's rarely accidental.
Okay, let's break down that connection. Let's start with the safest end of the spectrum, the very low sodium bracket. What defines this and what types of preserves fall here?
Very low sodium is typically defined as under 25 milligrams per serving. This bracket contains the vast majority of your standard sweet fruit preparations, your basic jams, jellies, many fruit butters, and simple sauces. In these, salt is typically used only in minuscule amounts, if at all, purely for flavor balance to enhance the sweetness, not for preservation.
Okay, so most sweet stuff is very low. Makes sense. What about the next step up, the low sodium bracket?
The low bracket usually ranges from 25 to 100 milligrams per serving. Here you start to find more traditional preserves, which sometimes use slightly more salt historically.
Right.
Most chutneys, which balance sweet, sour, and a little salt, and perhaps some lightly pickled fruits. In this range, salt plays a slightly larger role in flavor complexity and might contribute very minimally to inhibiting spoilage alongside sugar and acid.
Okay, 25, 100 milligrams. Still pretty low compared to many processed foods. When do we start seeing salt become a more intentional player in the preservation or flavor?
That happens when we move into the moderate sodium bracket, which the analysis pegs at roughly 100 to 300 milligrams per serving. This bracket is really defined by savory preparations where salt is integral to the process. Think of most écarts and many pickled preparations.
Right, pickling inherently requires salt for curing and drawing out moisture.
Exactly. Salt is a key part of the preservation mechanism here, controlling microbial growth and developing texture. However, the salt is usually distributed across a relatively large volume of fruits or vegetables, keeping the per serving amount in this moderate, though noticeable range.
Okay, 100, 300 milligrams for écarts and pickles. Getting higher. Now, the high sodium bracket, where does that take us?
The high bracket is defined as 300 to 700 milligrams per serving. According to the source analysis, this category is strongly associated with savory fermented bases, particularly those using miso.
Miso again. We know it's salty.
Yes. Miso paste itself, the foundational ingredient, is inherently quite high in sodium. So when you use miso as a significant component in a preserve or savory spread, it naturally drives the sodium content up into this high range. Some other intensely savory, perhaps soy sauce-based marinades adapted into preserves might also fall here.
Okay, 300, 700 milligrams. That's definitely getting into territory where you need to be mindful, especially if you have blood pressure concerns. That's like a small bag of salty snacks. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room, the extreme outlier that requires a flashing warning light. the very high sodium outlier, the one exceeding 1,000 milligrams. We need to revisit that breadfruit fish sauce reduction.
Yes, at 1,285 milligrams of sodium per the designated 2-tablespoon serving, this product is just on another level entirely. It's phenomenal and, frankly, quite alarming if misused.
1,285 milligrams in 2 tablespoons. We absolutely need to be crystal clear with the listener about what this means and how to approach such a product. This isn't just salty, this is hyperconcentrated sodium.
Precisely. The key instruction here is understanding concentration. First, the base ingredient, fish sauce, is already incredibly salty and umami-rich through its own fermentation process. Second, the preparation method used here is the reduction.
Meaning they cooked it down, evaporating water.
Correct. Evaporating water concentrates everything left behind: the flavor compounds, the color, and critically, the salt. So you're taking an already high sodium ingredient and making it exponentially more concentrated.
The functional implication how you use this is absolutely paramount then.
It is non-negotiable. This product cannot be viewed or used like a jam, a chutney, or even a typical savory spread. It functions purely as a highly potent seasoning or condiment. Its role is to deliver an intense burst of umami and salinity in microdoses.
Like drops, not spoonfuls.
Exactly. You might use a quarter teaspoon, maybe less, to season an entire stir-fry, a soup, or a dipping sauce. Using it by the tablespoon would be incredibly unwise from a health perspective and likely overwhelm the dish with saltiness anyway.
The sheer existence of this 1,285 milligram sodium product within a collection labeled preserves really forces a paradigm shift, doesn't it? It proves that preserve in this context is fundamentally about the method of concentrating ingredients for longevity or flavor intensity, regardless of whether that concentrated ingredient is sugar, fat, vitamins from peppers, or in this extreme case, salt.
That's the crucial takeaway. The method defines the product and its use case, far more than the simple label preserve. You absolutely have to look closer. #TAG-V, Storage and Safety Summary, the essential instructional guidelines.
Okay, that sodium discussion was intense but essential. For the learner who's maybe inspired to try making some of these or just wants to understand how to store purchased ones properly, the source material included some vital storage and safety guidelines. Let's run through those. First, what about the items that aren't truly shelf stable? What requires constant refrigeration?
Right. These are the perishables, and they have pretty strict timelines. The ones with the shortest lifespan are the fresh curds.
Lemon curd, lime curd, because of the eggs and butter.
Exactly. They rely heavily on fresh dairy and egg content, which are prime environments for bacterial growth even when cooked. So fresh curds typically only last 1 to 2 weeks in the refrigerator and should never be stored at room temperature.
1 to 2 weeks. Okay, that's short. What else needs the fridge?
The oil-based confits. While the oil does act as a barrier and preservative to some extent, sealing the product, they aren't typically processed for true shelf stability. They generally have a longer refrigerated life than curds, maybe around 1 month, but they definitely need to be kept cold to prevent spoilage or rancidity of the oil.
Okay, confits in the fridge for about a month. What about the fermented stuff?
The active fermented preparations, things like the fruit kimchi, sauerkraut-based preserves, or even simpler fermented flutes, fall into a more variable category. The source suggests they typically last 2 to 6 months under refrigeration.
Why the wide range, 2 to 6 months? And why refrigeration if they're fermented? Doesn't fermentation preserve?
Fermentation does preserve, primarily through acidity and beneficial microbial competition, which inhibits harmful bacteria. However, these preparations contain active, live cultures that continue to slowly ferment and change the product over time, even in the cold. Refrigeration is necessary to slow down that active process significantly, maintaining the desired flavor profile and texture consistency, and preventing over-fermentation or potential spoilage from less desirable microbes eventually taking over. So they last a while, but the cold keeps them in their optimal state.
Got it. Cold slows the ongoing fermentation. Okay, so fresh curds, 1 to 2 weeks, oil confits, 1 month, and active ferments, 2 to 6 months, all need the fridge. Now, what about the truly shelf-stable products, the ones you can potentially store long-term in the pantry if they're processed correctly? What makes them stable?
Shelf stability is primarily achieved through controlling water activity. This is usually done through a high concentration of preservative agents like sugar or acid, or by physically removing water.
Okay, so what types fall into this category and how long do they last?
Your traditional preserves, jams, and jellies, relying on high sugar content, often over 55–65%, and proper sealing, are generally shelf-stable for 12 to 18 months. The high sugar concentration binds water, making it unavailable for microbial growth.
Okay, a year to a year and a half for standard jams. What lasts even longer?
The concentrated reductions. Because their preparation method involves removing so much water, their water activity is extremely low. This gives them the longest shelf stability among the sweet preserves, often 12 to 24 months, sometimes even longer. There's just not enough available water for spoilage.
2 years for reductions, impressive, and the most robust.
The highly acidic vinegars, their low pH, high acidity, creates an environment where very few spoilage organisms can survive. Fruit vinegars, when properly made and bottled, can easily last 2 years or more on the shelf.
Right, acid is a powerful preservative. Okay, shelf stable. Traditional preserves, 12-18 matum, reductions, 12-24 matum, vinegars, 2+ years. Finally, were there any special storage and processing notes? Any crucial tips or caveats for the listener handling these diverse preserves?
Yes, a few important ones. First, a fun note regarding the fermented preparations. The source reminds us that their flavor continues to evolve over time, even in the fridge. They are dynamic, living products. A jar opened 3 months after making it will likely taste significantly deeper, more complex, maybe tangier or funkier than one opened right away. So you can taste them periodically and see how they mature.
That's part of the appeal of ferments, isn't it? They change.
Exactly. Also, remember that the high-acid preparations, like the vinegars and shrubs, are often considered self-preserving due to their low pH. Their inherent acidity naturally creates a safe environment, making them less prone to spoilage than low-acid preserves.
Good point. And the final, absolutely critical safety instruction, especially for anything intended for shelf storage.
This cannot be stressed enough. The necessity of proper canning techniques. True, long-term shelf stability, meaning you can safely store that jar of jam or pickles at room temperature for over a year, requires strict adherence to scientifically validated canning practices. This means using sterilized jars, processing them in a boiling water bath or pressure canner for the correct time to destroy microbes and enzymes, and ensuring a proper vacuum seal is achieved upon cooling.
So just pouring hot jam into a jar and closing the lid isn't enough for shelf stability.
Absolutely not. That's called open kettle canning, and it's considered unsafe for shelf storage by modern food safety standards. If proper canning steps are skipped, even high-sugar jams or acidic pickles must be treated as refrigerated perishables with a much shorter lifespan. Safety first is paramount.
Crucial advice. Proper canning for shelf stability. Otherwise, keep it in the fridge. One last caveat.
Yes. Just a reminder for the listener, all these 155 nutritional values and ranges we've meticulously mapped out today are robust estimates. They're based on standard recipes and ingredient assumptions from the source material. However, variations in specific ingredients, like the ripeness of fruit affecting sugar content, precise preparation methods, and portion sizes will always slightly adjust the final numbers in any real-world batch. They are excellent guidelines, but allow for some minor variation.
Excellent point. Consider them highly informative maps, not absolute GPS coordinates down to the last milligram. Hashtag tag outro.
So when we take a step back and synthesize this incredibly detailed nutritional map drawn from 155 different recipes, the single most important instructional takeaway for you, the listener, becomes crystal clear, doesn't it? It's that the preservation method is the ultimate lever, the primary driver of the final nutritional profile and functional benefit.
Yeah, that theme just came through again and again. It wasn't just about banana or blackberry. It was about how that fruit was treated.
Exactly. Whether we're looking at the extreme caloric density derived from the fat in the confits, or the exceptional fiber content achieved through the vegetable additions and minimal processing in the acars, or the valuable probiotic cultures developed through specific miso or kimchi fermentation techniques, or even that strategic addition of roasted red peppers to achieve an unbelievable 94% daily value of vitamin C in every case. The preparation technique is what defines the outcome.
Which brings us right to the core action point for anyone listening. It's about matching the method to your goal, right?
Precisely. If your primary goal is maximizing fiber intake and getting interesting textures, you should actively seek out HR-type preserves, or perhaps conserves with nuts and dried fruit.
Okay. And if you need genuinely low-calorie options,
Then you look towards the fruit leathers, the vinegars, maybe the lightly sweetened gels or simple fermented fruits. Avoid the jams, and definitely avoid the curds and confits.
and if you need pure, unadulterated energy density, maybe for athletic fuel or specific culinary applications,
Then, understanding the implications, you would specifically choose a confit, knowing it delivers calories primarily through fat. The name of the fruit on the label is really just the starting point. It's the methodology described that truly completes the map of functional nutrition and tells you what that product is designed to do. Perhaps the most provocative finding, thinking back across everything in the source material, is just how much radical nutritional power is unlocked when preservation methods shift away from the purely traditional sweet approach.
Yeah, moving into those savory techniques really changed the game.
It really did. The adoption of these more savory methods, the acars, the miso bases, the fish sauce reductions, the kimchi-style ferments, is precisely what brings us both the absolute highest concentrations of certain beneficial compounds, like that 94% DB vitamin C in the HR.
And simultaneously, the most intense nutritional warnings, like that staggering 1,285 milligrams of sodium in the fish sauce reduction, it's a double-edged sword.
It is. Which leads to a really fascinating final thought for you, the listener, to ponder.
How does this radical shift, this move from the familiar world of sweet jams and jellies towards these highly functional, sometimes quite extreme, savory condiments and ferments, how does that fundamentally change our understanding of what a preserve can even be? And more practically, how can you, in your own kitchen, potentially use that versatility deliberately using fat, salt, specific vegetable additions, or targeted fermentation, not just to preserve food, but to actively elevate or transform the nutritional profile of your daily cooking in new and interesting ways?
That's the question. How can we leverage these techniques beyond just keeping food to actually enhancing it functionally?
Something to chew on. That's definitely a thought to leave you with until our next deep dive.